Creative Living, utilizing today's technology with the best of the past to bring you innovative ideas and up-to-date information for creative lifestyles in today's active world. With your host, Sheryl Borden.
Thanks for joining me today for Creative Living. We're going to learn how to prepare a fajita party and show how to make green or recycled jewelry. One of my guests is John Valertson, or more commonly known as Chef Johnny V. He's a cookbook author and chef, and he's going to explain how a fajita menu makes for a great party theme because most of the items can be prepared in advance. John will demonstrate making a quick salsa, a marinade for meats, delicious guacamole, and homemade flour tortillas. He owns and operates Las Cosas Cooking School in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And we'll begin the show today with Shannon Bilkey, who is a designer and crafter. Shannon will show how to use recycled products, lots of bling, along with paints and other embellishments to create beautiful green jewelry. Her business is called Shea & Company, and she's from Payson, Arizona. Shannon, thank you so much for coming. I told you I love to do crafts, and I can copy most things, but I'm not original. You design a lot of your own projects, and you teach lots of people. Tell us about that.
I look at other people's work and say, I'd like to try that. But I never do what they did because somewhere inside I have to go out on my own little limb. But yes, I teach lots of people and I get lots of inspiration from them too.
Well, I think that's true. And if you do sewing or crafts or any type of hands-on thing, everybody has a little extra touch they put to it.
Yeah, it seems to come, you know, you don't even plan it. And I think that's the beauty of the artwork is it's my finished piece is never envisioned. I'll start with something, say I want to try that technique, and I see where it takes me.
It's one of a kind that way.
Yes.
Well, we're going to talk about making our own jewelry, and actually it's green jewelry because you've taken, for instance, this chain from an old piece that you said, I wonder why in the world I ever bought that.
Exactly.
But the chain's beautiful.
Yes.
And this is what you're going to show us how to make.
Yes.
This pendant or the piece on the bottom. And again, you'll show us some variations to it. And this is a bracelet that's made the same way, could be worn together or separately.
Right, and then I brought the last pieces, which would be the matching earrings.
So we're going to make earrings today. Okay, what supplies do we need to start with?
This is very basic. You use cardboard, old cardboard. This is recycled in a class that I teach. We start everything with recycled used items. And
I like that.
This is a basic plain piece of cardboard that
just chipboard.
Chipboard, right. Now you can get chipboard in cutout shapes, or you can cut them yourself.
Use the die cutter.
Right, and some of this big one is cut out of, it's a piece that I already had cut out. And then it's chipboard that I bought, and then some of them, you look at the different shapes and you cut them out yourself. Now that's a little tedious, but still it's,
can be done.
Yes, absolutely.
And you stack some, so it makes it three-dimensional in some instances. Okay, we have our chipboard, acrylic paints, just our choice of colors.
This technique is to look like old worked metal. And you start with your basic chipboard, you cover your basic chipboard with a layer of black paint. You
flat
black, let it dry. Then you mix metallic colors for this.
Okay.
And you mix just a little, and you mix it right on your piece.
Oh, okay.
And so none of them are the same. And they have their own little veins of color.
Now, are these metallic acrylics?
These are green metallic acrylics.
Oh, okay.
Very nice paints. And then you just mix it and paint it right on. Mix it the way you want and paint it right on top.
Oh, I like the streaks of the reddish color that's coming out.
Yeah, the copper. Then you get the color, and you can do it any way you want. Sometimes you want more copper, sometimes you want more gold. And what you're going to do is cover the whole piece. and let it dry.
And acrylics dry so quickly.
Right.
So it's a project you could do several of these in steps. And
right. And I do them in layers, everything black, but it gets boring. So then you have to say, okay, this one's dry, so let's try a little color on this one. And once it dries, you will see that with the metal look, it might look a little too thin, so put another layer on. Make it nice and thick.
Now, are you going to do you do both sides?
Yes,
Just
I do both sides. And that's more my thing because I want to make it look finished.
Yes. I think that would be
Even
nice.
if it's going to be glued glued down. I make it finished.
Okay.
And so some of these are already from chipboard. I popped some of the centers out, some I didn't.
Some you don't.
Yeah, and that's
I
one of
noticed
those,
that.
you kind of look at it and think, how is that going to work? How does that look?
So the little punched out centers is sort of an extra accent.
Right,
to the
and then you
pieces.
can use them on as
Oh.
you see fit. And then I went into my little gadget box and found some little beads that who knows where those are from.
Oh, okay. So now
to
we're
glue
talking
down.
about the earrings right here.
Well, and
You just topped.
right here,
Oh,
see?
and on the bracelet.
Right. Now the earrings are the last thing. They're the same little piece of chipboard. And I thought, well, let's make a matching set, even though I don't wear a matching set. And then you would just pierce little tiny holes. And this is just chipboard. So if it wears out, wears out. If it gets lost, it gets lost.
Well, yeah, you don't have to worry about it in
Right.
that respect. And you have your earring findings that you can find
Right,
at any
and
craft
these were-
store.
Any craft store, or go to your jewelry box and find all that jewelry that you used to like and now you don't know what you were thinking when you got it.
Yeah,
And
really.
reuse it. But the thing that gives these all this nice worked metal look is the fun part. When you're feeling aggressive or you need to take it out or just get some tension out, you're going to take the end of your paintbrush, and a smaller end works better. And you're just going to pound it in.
That's that distressed look, isn't
Right,
it?
and it pounds it in and gives you that worked metal look. And then on top of that, you can mix the teeniest bit of green paint and blue paint, and you just lightly dab it, and then dab it so that
Now,
there's
why? Green and blue.
the green and blue. When you put it on top of the metallic, gives it that old patina look.
Oh, I see.
But you don't do it so it covers it.
No.
You do it little bits here and there, and it gives it an old metallic look. And if you want it even older looking, you'd sand off the edges a little bit till you get down to the black paint.
Oh,
Just
like they do furniture.
a little, right?
I see. That's a
Right.
great
It's
idea.
kind of an antiquing.
Well, this
trick.
is really fun that you've made use of some things that otherwise would be sitting in the bottom of your jewelry box or worse, thrown away. So it's always good for us to see ideas of reusing things. Thank you very much, Shannon. I appreciate you showing us how to do this.
I was happy to. Thank you.
Johnny, it's such a pleasure to have you back, and I always love to see what we're going to do because you teach classes at the Las Cosas Cooking School.
Yes, in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
And you said the fajita class is one of the most favorite ones you do.
You know, it really is. And during the summer, I love to give people entertaining ideas where you can actually, first of all, be at your own party. Get everything done in advance, get things done in the morning, look for recipes that are easy to do, can be, nicely put into bowls, ready to go. Then you can be at your own party and bring everything out. And everybody thinks, wow, what a wonderful hostess. She's been cooking all day. Plus, with fajitas, when you're grilling things, ideally you can get all the condiments done in the kitchen, send the meat out with the men folk and let them do the grilling. You've got everything done, and then people can gather around and enjoy the goodies.
That's a good point. And I was telling you, I don't do well if I wait till the last minute and everyone's around and talking and all that. I like to have it all done ahead of
All
time.
ready to go. Also, then the kitchen isn't a mess when people come in and they look at you like, oh my God, what has she been doing? You get everything cleaned up. Hide any of the containers that you bought from the store that you shortcut, but that's okay too.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
And really, once you get your meat marinated, you get your salsas inside, condiments ready to go, you're ready to go.
Okay, let's start with the pico de
Yeah,
gallo.
so let's talk pico de gallo, which means the beak of the bird, is really a spicy salsa traditionally served with fajitas. And by the way, fajita comes from a Spanish word faja, which means skirt.
Skirt.
And it is originally or traditionally done with the skirt steak.
The beef.
So the beef.
But we like
skirt
chicken
steak. Yeah, you can
fajitas
do
too.
chicken, you can do shrimp. Also, it's easy to do vegetarian fajitas for any vegetarians that might sneak in to the party. But pico de gallo traditionally is served not so much as a corn chip salsa, but a condiment to put over your fajitas. So what we start with is one of our popular chilies here called chipotle chilies. So chipotle,
Kind of a smoky taste,
it's a
isn't it?
smoked jalapeno.
Oh.
And just smell how wonderful that is.
yes, it
So those I have actually soaked in hot water for about 15 minutes, just until they soften. And then what I'm going to do is take the chilies out of the bowl, chop them up, and I am going to leave the seeds in there because, of course, the seeds do have a
where
lot
the-
of flavor. We can leave that there because I'll probably put
Okay.
everything in. Here's my knife I call the Terminator.
Yes, I remember your Terminator
This is the doozy
knife.
here. This is by a company called KENW, but it's a knife called a shoon. So
And chefs always have their favorite knife.
You've got to
don't they?
have it. It's sort of like your major tool that you want to work with. So we're just going to chop those up. Once again, leave in the seeds because we want this to have a nice kick to it.
Do people ever complain that it's too hot?
Yeah, and that's always fun.
So you just
that's always fun when they
You don't care, huh?
Yeah, well, you know, you could give them a little bit of warning. If your cousin from Boston comes, I would probably warn them.
Okay.
Couple little gadgets. You know, I love my gadgets. This is one of my favorites called a garlic peeler. And we're going to use a lot of garlic in our menu today. So what I do, put my garlic clove in there, roll it on the counter, and out pops the garlic clove all peeled. Isn't that fun? I wish
Regardless
I
of the size, it just
it just peels them right off. Then this goes in the dishwasher, and all your little skins go in there. Really good garlic press is a good gadget to have. This is by a company called Roastly.
And that's also another class that's just on kitchen gadgets.
Yeah, on gadgets. Because people, you know, I think you can also be a great chef if you've got a good cutting board and a knife. But some of the gadgets do make things
Sure.
easier and a little faster. So we'll put our garlic in. And then we're actually going to sneak in some red wine vinegar. And vinegar is a great thing to add to salsa, Cheryl, because it really gives your salsa a nice little zip. And then we're also going to add lemon juice, which of course goes in a lot of salsas. And another nifty little juicer gadget here. We're just going to squeeze that in.
Boy, that's a lot easier.
Yeah, than the old
Squeezing
days.
it by hand.
Yeah, really. And then we're going to add just tomatoes, chopped tomatoes or diced tomatoes, and some onion. Now, cilantro appears in a lot of our New Mexico dishes. And, you know, recently they've discovered that some people are actually do not have the enzymes to digest cilantro. So you probably have heard of people saying, oh, cilantro makes me burpy. It doesn't digest well. I think I'm allergic to it. Well, now they've discovered that actually it probably
is true.
Somebody doesn't have the enzyme. So, but a better way to get a little more yield out of your cilantro and a better fresh flavor is I just chop it a little bit. I don't pulverize it because when you pulverize it, you really start to break it down, and that's when it gets brown and sort of funky. So I just say we're going to chop through this about 10 times. Leave it nice and leafy there so we have that nice fresh flavor.
I love to smell cilantro
and smell
too.
that. Yeah, we need to create smell-o-vision.
Yes, we do.
Because this would be a great. So you can see how pretty that is. We've got red, green, and white. And we'll just let that marinate a little bit, and then that will be what we'll serve our fajitas with.
Okay.
Now, to marinate our meat, skirt steak traditionally was the beef that was used, but you can really get some nice thin, this is actually a thinly sliced ribeye steak. That's boneless, well, sort of semi-boneless, I guess.
Yeah.
And what
Small
we're going
bone.
to use is another great gadget. This is called a Jacquard meat tenderizer.
Jacquard.
So this actually comes from Buffalo, New York. If you look at
Kind
those,
of a Terminator on a
it is
smaller
on
scale.
its own, yeah. Those are surgical steel blades, Cheryl, that are going to puncture the meat, open up the cells, and if you notice the angle of those,
Yes,
you know, they tell you
Alternates.
don't, yeah, they alternate, they're on the bias. Usually they tell you don't cut into meat when you're about to grill it because the juices will run out.
Right.
This turns your meat into a sponge. So this is the fun part.
Take out your frustration.
Take out if you've had a bad day, come home and tenderize. And
All
then
the meat.
All the meat. We're going to flip it over. That's good. We've got cilantro on there too. And then what I have here, Cheryl, is a mixture of lime juice and garlic. Now, getting back to that idea of the original fajitas, that's good. We can let that marinate.
Okay.
If you think about this, the Mexican ranchers that came to help with the ranching in Texas, starting in the 1930s, skirt steak was not popular then. So the Mexican workers were given these inexpensive cuts of meat called the skirt steak. And the Mexican ranchers knew that if you tenderized, pounded the skirt steak, marinated it with lime juice and garlic, the lime juice would actually break down the protein in the meat and tenderize it. Also, it gives it a fantastic flavor.
Oh, it does.
So we can do the same preparation with chicken. I just have a boneless, skinless chicken breast, lime juice, garlic, salt, and pepper, also tenderized with our little jacquard meat tenderizer. So we're going to just let that marinate for a couple of hours, and then we'll grill them and serve them on our fajitas.
Great.
And the nice thing about a fajita party is all of your salsas and your guacamole and everything can kind of be out with corn chips at the beginning of the party.
Which
So
gives
we're-
kind of an appetizer.
Yeah, keep, you know, and then it's all sort of there. You bring out the meat and you're ready to go. So what we're going to do is make a quick guacamole. And when you're choosing your avocados, you want them to be nice and black. They should yield slightly to the touch. And I shake them. I don't want that pit to be hollow and rolling around in there. That means it's overripe. Okay.
Overripe. Okay.
Now,
I do
what
the
you-
pinching, but I hadn't thought about shaking
and
it.
they should be pretty well almost black. Now, rather than peel this like a peach, I'm going to carefully cut this around the north and south. That's a pretty ripe avocado. And then very carefully grab that pit. Whoops. And then we'll lose it.
Yeah, well, we didn't need
Grab
it
that
anyway.
pit. Yeah, really. And people always say, is it true that if you put your pit in the guacamole, it keeps it from browning? I always think that's sort of an old wives' tale, but I think it's cute because it's almost like the guacamole thinks it's still an avocado. But the best way to keep your avocado or your guacamole from browning is to actually press plastic right into it.
Oh,
And that
plastic.
cuts off, plastic wrap, that cuts off all of your oxygen. We've got a little bit of an overripe one here. And you know, I always tell people if you really need a certain amount of guacamole, always buy an extra avocado. Then if you get home and that one's too...
Well, and I'll eat it, so
Yeah,
it never goes to waste.
yeah, absolutely. And then we've got, I actually add a little bit of chopped, scallions to my guacamole, and I like a chunky guacamole. Some people
Like it
mash
smooth.
it up. So I'm just going to use a couple of bread and butter knives here. Leave it a little bit chunky, and then I have also diced and seeded jalapeno. So we don't want the seeds. Once again, that's going to be too hot. And my little addition of a scallion.
Scallions.
And then our diced Roma tomatoes. And
And I've tried lots of purchased guacamoles, but I found a brand that I really like
Oh,
that's
good.
And so if I'm in a hurry, I
and you
still
know, I
purchase
think
it. But it's fun
entertaining,
to,
when you're entertaining now, don't feel like you do have to make everything from scratch. If you can, if you can shortcut, that's
You bet.
part of it. A little bit of salt.
or
and then
ask other people to bring some dishes in. That's always nice too.
That's the way to do it. Okay, so we're going to do
we
a
need
little
some more
lime juice.
lime.
And of course, that's going to keep our
That
salt.
keeps the
Yeah,
it
keeps
keeps
it from browning a
browning
little bit.
too.
And then we'll add some cilantro later, and then we've got, look at how pretty that is. A little bit of fresh cilantro. And cilantro you can add right at the end because that'll keep it nice and fresh. So we'll have that ready to go. Look at how quick we're cooking
going
here.
great.
Okay. One of the other challenges I think with fajitas in restaurants is I think they end up frying the peppers and onions, and when you get the plate of food, everything is covered with grease. So what I do, this is a little stovetop grill. I just grill my veggies. This is red and yellow bell pepper
Peppers.
and a sliced up red onion.
Red onions.
Then when you serve these, you're going to have a much nicer, fresher flavor
And
without
you
all
still
that.
keep the color.
Yeah,
and that's
you'll
what
keep the color.
fajitas are kind of known
Yeah.
for, is the beautiful
And
color.
do that kind of, give ourselves a little room. Then we're going to make some homemade tortillas.
Now, I usually do cheat on that. I
Well,
found
and
a
that's
place
an easy,
that,
that's an easy place to cheat. But I actually, for my recipe, this is 3 cups of white flour
oh, and you've got
and
some wheat.
1 cup of whole wheat flour, which makes them a little bit healthier. And I've just kneaded that, let it rest for 20 minutes. And now all I'm going to do is pull off a ball of dough, about the size of a, what's that, a tennis ball maybe?
Yeah.
And then roll this out pretty thin. We don't want these to be too
Now,
thick
does this have
because
baking powder? Or
there's baking
does-
powder, a little bit of sugar actually, a little bit of salt, and a little bit of lard. Of course, we like to use lard here in our New Mexico cooking. And we're going to roll these pretty thin. And then I've got a griddle here, which I kind of call a comal. I'm going to put a little bit of spray, put a little spray on there.
We know it's hot.
Yeah, that is ready to go. And we're going to roll these out. Now, I never worry about getting these perfectly round. This way we know they're homemade,
Homemade.
okay?
Yeah,
And
it's not the cookie cutter version, is it?
And you don't need great big ones, but you can look at how nice. I call this a workable dough.
Now, you don't sling it up in the air
Well,
like
you
they do
could.
pizza?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. And then we're going to put that on here.
And you don't want to be gone too long because they cook fast.
And
that's
that is going to
the
happen.
beauty of it, too.
That'll happen quick. Let me just grab a little spatula
Okay.
that we can turn with.
Oh,
Then when we get ready to assemble, we have our marinated meat. So yeah, look at that. Look at our puff there.
And that's what they say is that you do want
little
those bubbles.
Yeah.
That tells you it's time to turn it.
Yeah, and I do like nice and crispy
Well,
stuff,
good.
so that's good. And those will happen pretty quick. And then
Yeah.
even if you bought store-bought tortillas, heat them up on a griddle because then when you serve them, they're so yummy. So we'll put that down there, pretty side up, okay? And then I'm going to take my steak here. Now, one thing you don't want to do, sometimes people slice their meat before they do their fajitas. Grill the meat whole and then slice it because you can.
It doesn't move around a lot.
Yeah.
That way you can have better control.
you're gonna
Now
see
you're
how-
slicing
yeah.
it very thin.
Very thin. And you can see how tender this is because
You can still see some pink.
yeah, that's good because I marinated and also tenderized the meat. So what we'll do, we would let these veggies get nice and charred here. And we will assemble. Now, when I worked in Australia for a long time, Cheryl, and we used to sell fajitas in a restaurant group that I worked for. So we would serve the meat, we would serve all the condiments and the tortillas to the Australians, and they would eat everything, and then they would call us over and hold up the tortillas and say, "What were these for, mate?" You know? So we finally ended
I
up
see.
serving
Putting it
a
all
little,
together.
yeah, well, we actually gave them a little cheat sheet on how to eat fajitas because they were.
You know, I hadn't thought about
Yeah,
that.
it
I
was
guess
funny.
because we grew up eating them
Yeah, we
practically.
knew how to,
but
knew how to
that's
do that.
I've had the same
Okay.
problem with other
Yeah.
cuisine, so I can
What we'll
understand
do-
that.
And then let me get a few of these little veggies here. This is going to smell so delicious.
It
And you
already
know,
does.
this is pretty healthy too. We're not, we don't have a lot of oil
No
here.
fat added. Here's the pico de
There's our
gallo.
pico.
And the good thing about having this as a buffet, people can put as much or as little
Yeah.
as they want.
Yeah,
They're
and I
not
always tell
locked
people,
into it.
if you have some vegetarians coming, grill some nice zucchini and butternut squash.
Yeah.
Give them that. And then this is just a little cheddar.
Mm-hmm.
On top, you can do a little sour cream, maybe a little hot sauce. So
Mm-hmm.
another fun thing I do for parties, these are $1 each. Buy some fun hot sauces, put them out on the table. It kind of makes the table festive. And then you
People can
just,
sample different
yeah.
ones.
Now, I
Wow.
don't think we should try to put this
No.
wrap this up. But you can see, so we have our homemade flour tortillas, pico de gallo, our grilled marinated steak, guacamole, cheese, and a little bit of salsa. So great party. Look at how pretty that is.
It really is. Well, thank you so much for showing us really how easy, if we'll do a lot of the chopping and preparing ahead of time.
Get everything ready, and then you can party.
Okay. Thank you very much,
Sure,
John.
thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed the show today. Next time on Creative Living, we'll learn about a curriculum that schools can use to deal with bullying. We'll share some interesting information on an old quilt pattern and demonstrate making gifts with slice and bake cookie dough. One of my next guests is an author who's written a children's book about bullying. He says that a large percentage of bullying takes place in and around the school building, and he'll explain why his curriculum is so effective in the school system. Another guest is going to show her version of quilt blocks for the popular Drunkard's Path pattern. She'll demonstrate using triangles instead of squares and alternating fabric colors to allow for many new designs. And finally, we'll talk to two cookbook authors who will show how to make a basic cookie dough recipe. Then they'll show how to create a slice and bake gift log with parchment paper and decorations. All of these topics will be featured on the next Creative Living show. If you ever have comments or suggestions or ideas for shows, you can email me at cheryl.borden@enmu.edu. And I'd also like to ask you to become a fan of Creative Living on Facebook. Just go to facebook.com and in the search window, type in Creative Living with Sheryl Borden. Thanks so much. I hope you'll plan to join me next time for Creative Living.
We are very pleased to offer a new booklet that accompanies this series of creative living. This booklet is titled the 6600 Series, and it features a wonderful collection of ideas and information, and it's available free of charge on our website. Posted as a PDF file, you can simply download the entire booklet, or just the segments you're most interested in. As with all of the Creative Living booklets, you'll find information on foods and nutrition, clothing and fashion, health and beauty, home decorating, and much more. For your copy of this booklet, go to our website at KENW.org and then click on Creative Living. Scroll down to the booklet section and you can click on this booklet or any of the other booklets we have available online. Once again, just go to KENW.org, click on Creative Living, and download the booklet titled the 6600 Series. We also want to encourage you to sign up for our free e-newsletter. Just click on the Sign Up Now button and input your email address. That's all there is to it. You'll enjoy reading an up-to-date newsletter filled with interesting topics and information. Thank you.